Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Tim Ryan. Thanks for being on the show, Tim.
Thank you, Whitney. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Tim went from crawling under houses doing manual construction to now owning over 300 rental units in 3 states. Over the past 21 years, he's built a successful construction and development company and now focuses on helping private investors obtain financial freedom in emerging market investing through syndications and partnerships. Tim, thank you again for your time. Give us a little more about your business and your focus right now, and let's dive into some, your unique ability that can help all of us.
Sure. Yeah. So right now I'm in my second out-of-state emerging market. I live in California and I own 0 rental real estate in California. It's very tough here. So I bought in Georgia, Tennessee, and now Wisconsin. And everything from single family to small multis, large multi-families, and now commercial property. And I'm doing some mixed use type buildings now in a downtown setting, which is kind of unique and different. So pretty diversified. We also own or running 4 Airbnbs, which is very interesting and fun. So it's something else we could talk about maybe. I'm a contractor. I've been a contractor for 20 years. And so I guess I could tell you my story. In 2008, I found myself twiddling my thumbs, and it was not a good year for construction. And it was at that time I realized I've got to do something for my future, that the next downturn, I've got positive cash flow. And so that was my big push, so 2008 through 9, 10, 11, 12, I was just crazy about getting rentals. And I didn't want to find myself in that position yet. So that was kind of how I got driven into it. Yeah.
So what were some of the first deals that you did, to get to that 300 unit mark?
Well, so for me, because I'm in Southern California, it's so expensive here, I had to learn some strategies about investing out of state in my area, which I did, and finding some good growth markets. My first market was Chattanooga, Tennessee, which Volkswagen announced they were building a manufacturing plant there. So I got there early, like 2009. Nobody was out there yet, and got in early. So let's see, I bought a 3 unit, and then my second purchase was my first real multifamily, a 16 unit, which was really exciting. And I'll tell you what's so amazing about that property, and I still think it's one of my best. And I've owned bigger properties. It gave me so much clout in that area. Once I got a 16, I would talk to brokers, I'd talk to other sellers, and they'd ask me about myself, and especially being out of state, they're a little, standoffish. So I said, well, I bought the 16 over in this area, and everything changes, right? So you get that deal. People are like, oh, this guy can close on deals. He's a multifamily investor. So sometimes people think you got to buy these big properties to look impressive, and not necessarily. So, but 16 is not bad, right? So from there we went on.
No.
Yeah, right. It's exciting. Let's get to that point. Oh, I'm sorry, lost my earbud. But
no, that's awesome. It's just neat how the credibility piece changes, once you have a deal or two, especially once they get some size to them. It does make things so much easier, when having those conversations with brokers or lenders or anyone really in the business. But ultimately, there's so many tire kickers, right? There's so many people who want to get started and they never actually do. And so I understand, why that changes things when you're having those conversations. But, I know one thing that you're really good at too is just seeing the opportunity and being able to act on it. And where that's kind of what I'm talking about. There's so many people, they may even see the opportunity, but the fear just really holds them back, right?
Yes.
Or keeps them from pushing forward. So why don't you just speak to that a little bit, and let's dive in there and help the listener also that maybe has not pulled that trigger yet, move forward. Maybe they've been educating, right? We're always continually educating, but a lot of people educate themselves to death and never actually act on it. And so tell us, how you're better at that, how you improve that skill and also can help others.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say, and I have a story about how that just kind of came about out there. I bought a 104 unit, and in that area, it was fantastic buy. But I'll tell you what happened in the beginning. So I had done a lot of study. I knew that market. I knew pretty much most of the properties around. I got a call one day, and this broker said, "Hey, this property called Savannah, I just walked by my colleague's office. I heard he just got the listing." And so because I was prepared, because I had already been doing my due diligence in the area, I immediately said, "Okay, walk in there and tell him I'll buy it." Because I knew this was a deal, and that thing goes on the market. I didn't want it to actually go on the market. I wanted to go. And he kind of laughed and said, "Okay, yeah, I'll do that." We hang up. I said, "No, I want you to do it right now." Like, walk into his office. And I said, "I want to be on the phone and hear you when you walk in the office." I knew this is how important it was. And he just kind of laughed. I said, "Go do it, please, Robert, right now." So he walked in and he said to this guy, steward, he goes, "I got Tim Run on the phone." He says, "He'll buy it." I overheard you. He said, "He'll buy it." It's okay. Write it up. Let's do it. Didn't go on the market. No competition. Long story short, this was an amazing property for us. Held it 6 years and bought it at 4.1 million and sold it for 6.8. So we can go into a little more of that if you want, but really the point of all that was, I think I have an entrepreneurial ability that really sees something and I'll act on it quickly. And that, you said it a minute ago, it's like a lot of times it's that fear and what if, and well, what if the numbers are not this or that? And I had time and due diligence. I didn't actually buy it that moment, right? So I locked it up, I got under contract, but I didn't also waste their time. I don't get a bad reputation in town. You got to be careful with that too, right? You lock everything up and you never close on anything. Nobody wants to talk to you again. So I think to answer kind of what you were bringing, I think there's an entrepreneurial side that I have, and I think that's extremely important for real estate investors. And I like to tell some people, you got to do a self-assessment test. And if you don't really have that and you're constantly questioning and in fear, partner with someone that does, because you need kind of that extra, that other person in your life that can say, "Let's do this. This is a deal," right?
Yeah, you need someone on your team that's pushing you, right? Let's move forward with something, because fear can just keep you in your tracks. And I've seen it happen so often. Tell us, I know that deal, that's a great example. But what gave you just the lack of fear or just the confidence? Did you have somebody on your team maybe earlier on that helped you to build that level of confidence, or what was it for you?
I guess I could say it started with my dad. And I kind of have a unique story about my dad. I thought about it myself. It's a good question. I said, where do I kind of have this? And my dad he was a salesman in insurance, and he used to come home, and I'll never forget this because he would say, "I had the greatest day ever. Greatest day." And all of us, me and my brothers and sisters, like, "Wow, this is great. Can't wait to hear about the sales. How many sales did you have, Dad? This is amazing." And he said, "I did not have one sale today." And we're all like, "What? This is a great day." And he goes, "That means I'm that much closer. That means tomorrow and the next day, I'm going to nail it." And he just ingrained that in us. I think it's just like, it's almost like I'm saying, "Wait, that's a failure, Dad." He's like, "That's not a failure." And kind of like I have this saying where, and I'm telling my kids now, we're lucky as, Ryans, because we never lose. And people have heard this kind of a little bit of a cliche. We never lose because we either win or we learn. And that came out. I think that's the essence of entrepreneurial ability, right? Just you don't look at failures as failure. It's just it's a stepping stone.
So it's neat how you bring up like your father would express that, and that stuck with you, and how that has transformed your business, many, many years later, I assume, right. But just the attitude, right? Or that positive attitude to say, "Hey, I had the greatest day ever." And just knowing that, hey, we're working towards something, right? We're working towards that deal. We are getting there. So could you elaborate too on, okay, if we are kind of stuck in that fear mindset, finding that individual, finding that person, that like you recommended, finding somebody who has that ability to push you forward. Any thoughts there?
Yeah. So, I think the education's super important, right? We all need to educate and read and listen to podcasts, and there's so much learning. It's fantastic to learn so much. I was a sponge, in 2008, 9, 10. I couldn't get enough, right? And everybody needs to do that. But, I found that it's like I said earlier, the self-assessment. There's some people really got to look at, even do they have time to do some of this business? Depends on how you do it. Some people are like, I'm going to need to invest in out of state like me, but they're married with 3 kids under 5 years old, have a 9 to 5 job. It's like, how do you do that? What I'd like to try to tell people is, you could do this business, you can get involved. You just may not be the one who owns 100% and drives the whole business by yourself. And that's okay. Partnerships and connections. And, there's all kinds of places, meetup groups and people, and of course, I know I'm partial to, connecting with people that have some experiences like construction. I'm a general contractor. And so I think that's a huge thing. So I feel, that's where I've seen, I like to help people, to think this through and say, how do you fill up your team? Where's your team? And fill it with people that aren't like you, right? Have different skill sets.
For sure. Earlier too, you talked about growth markets, investing out of state. And I think some of that just speaks to the, being able to overcome fear as well. I mean, you're in California and you're investing in, in the East Coast, right? Or, Tennessee, Georgia, a long ways away. And most people can't get past, investing in their backyard. So I think that also speaks to that. But, how did you find, what does that look like, growth markets to you? How did you find that opportunity to act on it? And, in those markets, what was that said, okay, this is, man, we've got to hop on some deals in this market right now?
Yeah. Learning early on that we have to buy with positive cash flow immediately taught me my backyard's not going to work. So that was first. Secondly, through education, I read a lot of books and followed some people that said, there's markets all around the place. And what's unique is, there could be people say there's, we're in a time where everything's too expensive and it's too hard to find deals, or everything's, a buyer's market, but there's always the other market somewhere, right? There's always a deal. There's always something happening. And you could say that even in the Great Recession, there were places that were booming. So that was the concept I learned of. It really, to back up, the real crux of it is following the job. So we learn to research and follow where jobs are being created. If jobs are being created, people are actually going to move into town. And that's what happened, in Tennessee. It was amazing to see how that worked. And that's really the main point. Look for big job creation, and everything else is going to build and follow. That's how we did it.
The employers are kind of doing your advertising for you, aren't they? They're bringing, bringing the tenants in, your clients as well. Any tips on that, like market research, so where the jobs are, where they're coming?
Yeah. So, Google has this amazing thing called Google Alerts, and you actually put in a Google Alert. So I put in new manufacturing. I mean, that's simple. Every day you get all the news stories from around the country of something new. So you could literally see something early on. It's one of the first stories that says manufacturing companies coming to, what cities here and there. I think that to me is like one of the amazing finds I found when someone told me about that. And then there's a lot of other ways to research, and we're in an amazing time, right? We have the internet, and, if you've got kids like I do, I've got kids that are in their like 20 to 24 years old, and they can research for me and find me locations and that type of thing. So it's not as scientific as some people think. I think anybody can do it. You research different areas and find out what's happening and what's coming next, kind of thing, and being ahead of the curve.
What about some tips for investing out of state for that listener who's too fearful to make that jump and invest, states away like that?
So I'll tell you, one of the things I did, I think, is the biggest keys to my success of investing out of state. I've set in every place I've been, I set up my own property management. And it's tough. And it's one of the first questions everybody asks, like, whoa, how do you do the property management? I heard it could be a nightmare. I heard they can rip you off. You have to go through 5 of them. Said, yeah, that's all true. And it's the biggest fear and issue of going out of state. We tend to buy enough properties in an area that we set up our own actual property management company that just manages our own. So it could start with a part-time employee that lives in town and manages those properties. So it could grow from there. So I've had managers in each area that do work directly for me. We only manage our own stuff. So to me, that's number one. That's a big deal. And even on a smaller scale, I think the little more you're involved with that manager directly, my job is to manage the manager and they manage the properties. I found that's a big key. And then secondly, here's another one is that, being able to go there and get to know people and make friends. And it's huge. And I've talked to a lot of investors and I'd warn them, I said earlier, the internet's amazing. We can get on the internet, we can find properties, we could use our phone, talk to brokers, but until you get out there and meet with them and take them for coffee and find out, what they're into. So that guy who called me about the 104 unit, I remember one time it was at the end of my trip and I said, Robert, we got to meet this broker. And I took him for coffee. I would not have got that call unless I saw him in person. He said he still, admired that I bought him a coffee and we sat there and talked. It's like, that was that simple. But so there's like probably the biggest point. Traveling to that market, get to know people, make friends, find some common ground. Then that's where the brokers, open up, hey, I got an off-market deal.
I wanted to ask you also, you mentioned like setting up your own property management team. Even that seems like a lot to overcome when getting started, but it's awesome. But tell me, that first person you're hiring, you said maybe they're part-time, do they have experience? What are you looking for in that person to help you manage that first property?
Yeah. So I'll typically, the first place I start is try to get word of mouth. So I'll tell everybody I've become friends with already in town. Do you know anybody who could take this, because somebody knows somebody, it's always best. Secondly, we'll put an ad in the paper, and interview them, right? But I will look for some experience that they've ran. But I've had some that actually didn't do property management, but they once ran a business. So they did the accounting, they understood hiring themselves, they knew how to run projects, and they turned out really well. So it's really an interview process of knowing that someone can take this on. And then of course, if you have a big enough property, you put them on site, which is great. They can live there, and then smaller, they can, run some offsite like that. But, and then, you have to go, I've had to go through a couple of them, of course, just like anybody hiring anybody, you just got to be willing to jump in and make it work and find the next best person. But it works.
What's been the hardest part, or maybe most fearful, part for you of just the syndication business or buying commercial real estate?
Probably having the time to find the deals, because, what I found is once you find a good deal, raising capital to do a syndication is not a problem. Getting through the due diligence and closing is not a problem. It's especially the last few years, the difficulty's been finding the right deal, the numbers that fit for me. And I got a lot of things going on, so I don't have too much time for that. So I think that would probably be number one. But because of that, I really love apartments. I want to own a lot more apartments and bigger apartments, but it's been tough the last couple of years. So I did get in a little segue. I've been investing in a little more mixed use type buildings. I'm investing in a downtown setting, buying the mixed use as a retail on the first floor with apartments above. So it's really cool because it's diversified, and that's where we have our Airbnbs. So, real estate's amazing because there's so many different aspects, from single family and then this mixed use and commercial and apartments. And I'm not just a one, sector guy. They're all exciting and fun and lucrative too.
How do you prepare for a downturn? What is tips, how do you handle preparing now for an upcoming downturn?
Well, I believe in apartments. I believe in the rental market, even for a downturn. And the way I've seen it is, and even in the last recession at different times, yes, your rents may go down. Some people may move out and live with family, but you have like these A properties, these A quality, brand new apartments being built all over the place right now. They're, let's just take a number. They're $1,500 to $1,800 a month, where my apartments are $750. Those people get downsized. Where are they going to go? They come down to our apartment. So I just feel this, recession buster, of these apartments. So that's my answer. Now, yeah, would retail space and office space get hit? Yeah, I think it would. That's why I'll always have the majority in housing. And so that's really the recession buster. We have rental housing. I feel strong that, it's not going to, cause big problems. I think it's going to get us through a recession.
What do you predict in that sense there? Or go ahead with your thought.
There's one more thing that I think is important. And I think getting the initial loans on these apartments is important to me to get long-term fixed rates. And that's what we always insist on. And, principal and interest payments, not interest only. So, I've found, and, people got to be careful. And I've seen some people say, hey, I found this deal and these are all the numbers and they're fantastic, but they kind of had to make the deal work. Went interest only, went short term, adjustable rates, and did all these fancy tricks to make the numbers look good. Well, if you can find a deal that looks good with a fixed rate long term, that's going to help you too. Because you get in a recession now, all of a sudden you're looking at needing to refi or sell, you're stuck. It's going to be tough. So I want to weather that and not worry about it.
Thanks. Great advice right there. Fixed rate, long-term debt. So important.
And it's not hard to get.
I know there's deals that, right. Yeah. I know there's deals that can be had where you have to have bridge loans or different things, but man, fixed rate, long-term debt is so important. So you're never made to sell, right? You're never made to sell. Right. You're going to lose them for sure. So what do you predict, Tim, over the next, say, 6 to 12 months in the real estate market?
Well, of course, I'm investing in a real strong growth market. So I'm seeing huge growth right now and a lot of investors coming out. And there's so much cash out there right now. There's so much money. I'm already seeing, so many things being turned and working. I think it's going to be very positive. I think if people really think about it and see what's happening in the world right now, the government's printing money, which means the dollar's getting weak, and to have dollars and have savings and have money sitting somewhere is literally losing money. It's almost like it's a saying. It's truly losing money right now. But in a real asset like real estate, it's to me, it's the best place to be. Now, the crypto people can argue their side and the stock people theirs. This is my world, real estate, but I think we're in an amazing space right now to, grow, and, you got to find those deals. Prices are high right now. So, in the next 6 to 12 months, like you said, you got to dig through and find something and do the work, but there's definitely deals out there. So I think it's,
Tim, do you have any daily habits that you're disciplined about that have helped you achieve success?
Focusing on one thing at a time. So I do a lot. So I have a construction company. I own properties all over the place. And so I'm very busy, but I've learned to focus on one thing and then move on to the next. There's a guy read a book that talked about multitasking is a myth. And actually what you're doing is switch tasking all the time. So if you're trying to work on, people pride themselves, I can work on 6 things at a time. He says, that's crazy, that you're not really. You're giving little bits, so you got to focus on one, move to the next. That's helped me to get through and do a lot of stuff, on even a daily basis.
So know the time right now is focused on this one thing till I accomplish it, till I get it to a certain place before I move to the next thing, instead of so many things at one time.
Yeah. To me, I have to do it that way. Yeah. Get it done.
So what's your best source for meeting new investors right now?
It's interesting. It's changed, of course, because of COVID, and I was meeting a lot of investors with a meetup group I was doing in person. And how great is that? I get to, have a one-on-one, conversations. Well, we can't do that anymore. So Zoom and online has been working very well too, which is unique too, because then you can meet people even further away. So, different Zoom meetings and that type of thing is helpful. And it's fun, it's fun to meet new people, and it's fun to hear what people want to do. And one thing I always say is I've never met anybody I brought up real estate and they went, "Ooh, real estate." Seems like everybody loves the idea of real estate. Everybody's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to own real estate," And so it's really fun to talk to people and try to help them get to that, to own real estate. Now, some of them, if they don't meet someone that can help them and mentor and guide them, they'll never do it. So I've really enjoyed and had great times with people taking someone I know would probably never do it. Their money would sit in a mutual fund for the rest of their life. And now they're actually having ownership and getting all those benefits. It's fun.
That is fun.
Yeah.
What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I think I would say the ability to look outside my box and my area. Me going out of state, a lot of people say I think it's risky to go out of state and that. I think my ability to get on an airplane and go and just figure it out has been the best for me, because I would have made it tough on myself to do it locally. And but I think that backs up to this entrepreneurship that I have, and maybe I was lucky my dad was that way and he taught me, and that's why I like to say, in my opinion, you need to be entrepreneurial. It's a very highly entrepreneurial business. But for those that you are not, then just find someone that is. So I don't want to be, it's not a negative statement, and I'm not excluding anybody. Everybody can be part of this, and not everybody has every skill. So
sure. How do you like to give back?
This year, this COVID thing has been tough. So I really enjoy helping small business right now. I'm investing in this area that's a downtown setting, and I've been very involved, and I got on this board of directors of downtown corporation that helps businesses to make it through this time. So I think because I'm so business minded, that's where I've kind of gravitated, and so I've helped raise money for people and helped retailers and small businesses find grants. And so I've been spending my time giving back on that, and I want to see them thrive, and I want to see them, pay their bills. It's been kind of a little passion that just kind of propped up this year, because it's been tough,
Yeah,
it's tough.
No, that's awesome. Tim, well, it's been great to get to meet you, have you on the show, obviously get to know you better, and just hear about your entrepreneurial ability, and just how, if someone feels like they're too fearful and they don't have that, you can find people to partner with that can help you, find that deal or get it across the finish line, or maybe have skills that you do not have. So just grateful for your time, and how you've done Airbnb and large apartment communities, and different parts of the country, all the way across the country, starting your own management in those different places as well. You're definitely someone that's making it happen, and so I love talking to people like yourself. It helps me to learn to be the same way, right, and keep pushing forward. All right, so Tim, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, so I have a website, www.investwithhss.com. HSS is my company, HSS Investment Properties. It's very serious and good reasons why I came up with that. Stands for Hannah, Sam, and Shane, my 3 kids. So, and I say that because it's a family business, and what I do is I help families. People come to me. Most people have a family, even if it's just them and someone, and so I like to think of it that way. But yeah, investwithhss.com.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.